They have not pulled the plug on me yet. I'll try to make this brief, because I know I ran over my time. Again, Mr. Barabie's analysis, as the knuckle-dragging FBI agent, okay, are they fake or are they not? That's what I want to know. So, picking back up, I laughed about this. This showed up in the State Times Morning Advocate paper, and I was laughing with some friends of mine while we were doing some fellowship time. And, well, I said, when you got a cartoon made about you, you've made it, I guess. I don't know. So this showed up. This is a little bit better image of it. And the artist was nice enough to send me a nice, higher quality resolution than what I could get out the newspaper. In addition to McRone, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office had the most of this contract. We contracted with Orion Analytical. Like Mr. Barabie, Jamie Morton, super nice guy to deal with, extremely intelligent, very thorough, just like Mr. Barabie. He looked at several. I was real nervous about boxing all that stuff up. I sent him the paints and several originals and several fakes, several forgeries, sent that to him. And this, again, I said earlier, the stuff I'm talking about, it's been talked about in court. A lot of this, the McRone's and Orion's findings were published. They're in the court records. It's open to the public. Anybody, as long as you pay the expense of photocopying or whatever, you can get this information. So Orion issued a report based upon documents I sent, copies of documents, photographs that I sent, basically saying, okay, the question ones are forgeries for these reasons, the originals are originals for these reasons. The stuff that the FBI sees from the Toye's home is consistent with the materials, the paints, the techniques used to create the question paintings, the forgery. Basically saying the ones the FBI sent us that were questionable, they're forgeries. They're not by the same person that created the original Clementine Hunters that were so graciously given to us by Mr. Jack Britton and his family and Mr. Whitehead to use during this investigation. So that, as an investigator, felt pretty good about that. I think the prosecutors felt pretty good. McRone issued their report, not to go into it, but McRone basically said, yeah, there's consistencies in the forgeries, there's consistencies in the originals, but they're inconsistent, the groups. June 2006, we get our first guilty plea. Mr. Toye decides to plead guilty. He pleads to a felony, a conspiracy, the conspiracy count of the indictment. Now, mind you, the FBI, someone in their 80s, late 70s, that's not our normal subjects that we normally go after. But people, at some point, you keep committing crimes, you got to do something. So Mr. Toye decides to plead guilty. This is the press release that's issued. Oh, this is a great story here. There's Mr. Toye on the New York Times website with his cane. He had a cane by this point after he pled guilty. That's the article there. Again, that's a New York Times photo there of Mr. Toye. Maybe he was a sword yielder in another time too. I don't know. Funny story. I'm standing in the U.S. Attorney's office after we get out of court. I'm standing in the federal courthouse in Lafayette, Louisiana after the guilty plea, and I'm with Mr. Toye's defense counsel, and I'm with Alec Van Hook, the prosecutor, and Cytherea Jernigan, the other prosecutor, and we're looking out the glass in front of us, and I see Mr. Toye going after the New York Times photographer and another photographer, and he's swinging that cane like Mark McGuire swinging that bat for the wall. And he connects too. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he just committed a felony. The judge just told him he's not supposed to commit any type of crime, state or federal, local, whatever. That's a felony assault on the steps of the federal courthouse. What should I do? I didn't want to touch that one with a 10-foot pole. Again, that's the same photo, but on the Baton Rouge paper. I'm standing a few days later, on a river in Colorado on the family vacation in June, and I get an email from someone saying that Mr. Toye got his Wikipedia page. I'm like, I'm reading my BlackBerry. Oh man, I've got a fishing rod in one hand and a BlackBerry in the other. So Mr. Toye is an art forger in Baton Rouge. He made it big on that one. Mrs. Toye, shortly thereafter, in August, pleaded guilty also to a felony conspiracy count. Not too long after that, Times-Picayune publishes the article about Robbie Lucky. They set a court date. He's supposed to plead guilty. And on August 8th, 2011, the press comes out. Mr. Lucky pled guilty not to a felony, but not the conspiracy count, but a separate mail fraud count. Maine Antiques Digest in December 2011 publishes the article in one of their editions. 23 victims are named in the case. I believe there are a lot more out there. There were victims that did not cooperate with us in this investigation. There are many, many more victims, I believe, out there that I just don't know about. I don't know if I'll ever know about, ever. This is the sentence that Judge D. Drell, the federal judge in Alexandria, handed down for Mr. Toye. Pled to the felony, conspiracy charge. Mr. and Mrs. Toye, they're up in age, a lot of problems with their conditions. That was taken into account during sentencing by the judge. I think the judge did a very good job in looking at all the evidence and coming up with the appropriate sentences. 2 years of supervised release probation, over $400,000 in restitution to be paid to the named victims. Kind of unique. I don't work a lot of art forgery cases. I've only worked one. But the judge ordered that Mr. Toye should assist investigators in identifying and cataloging every Clementine Hunter forgery that he created. And that he'll also re-sign upon the request of any victim, re-sign with his name any forgeries, any Clementine forgeries that he created and that victims want signed by him. We're going through the process of that. No fine. Mrs. Toye was sentenced the same day. Again, this was in open court. Any of you guys could have saw this. She pled to the felony conspiracy count. She got a year of home confinement, 2 years supervised release, same amount of restitution. And again, she should assist in the identification and cataloging of any Clementine Hunter forgeries created by her husband, William Toye. Also, no fine. After that, someone started a Justice for Clementine Facebook that's still out there now. I'm sure there'll be something about this conference on that when it's over or later today. Some very nasty comments on there too. Press release goes out for the sentencing of Mr. Lucky on January 3rd, 2012, basically wrapping up the whole case for the public. We had I added some verbiage in here. We had FBI agents interviewing people all over the country. Thank you for all the field officers that went out and got requests from me and went out and located these victims, interviewed them. Sometimes this is like the third time they'd been interviewed by the FBI in the last 20 years. I'm sure they didn't like that. And then photographing the works of art, the forgeries that we were interested in. We also named the labs, including the National Center for Preservation, Technology, and Training here in Natchitoches, giving them credit for assisting in the investigation. Mr. Lucky received the sentence. He pled to that mail fraud charge. He got 25 months imprisonment with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. He will be in jail for 25 months. He won't be in jail for 2 months and then out on good behavior. That's not really how the federal system is set up. He got 3 years of supervised release probation. Once he gets out of prison, he is to be supervised, including meetings with probation officers for the next 3 years when he gets out. And he was ordered to pay over $300,000 in restitution to the named victims that he sold paintings to. He was also ordered to serve 200 hours of community service, and according to Judge Drell, preferably something benefiting the art community. I'm not sure what that will be. And he was not given a fine. This is what I learned about William Toye through the investigation. He was a doctor, of what I have no idea, but he became a doctor at some point, an art forger, an inventor. He was a New York Metropolitan Opera employee, symphony conductor, opera scenery designer, a draftsman, and according to one person we interviewed in Baton Rouge who witnessed William Toye tear up, we don't know whether it was a fake, a forgery, or a real piece of art in her presence, and claimed that he was a patron and protector of the arts. Just in summary, this investigation had an excellent prosecution behind it. Alec Van Hook, the first assistant in Shreveport, Cytherea Jernigan, who is now an assistant U.S. attorney. She was in Shreveport. She's now in Baltimore, Maryland, prosecuting cases. Highly intelligent people, aggressive, very aggressive, and for an investigator to have an aggressive prosecution behind them, it's unbelievable. It makes me sleep better at night. This case dealt with folk art, not fine art. I could find no reference to any other case by any type of law enforcement agency that concerned folk art. FBI works a lot of cases with fine art thefts and forgeries and frauds. Nothing really with folk art. Kind of unique. There may be some out there. I just don't know about it. I couldn't find anybody that could tell me about it. So, number one, that was unique in that case. We stopped an almost 40-year career by a mostly unknown forger. Mr. Toye, I interviewed Mr. Toye at the search in his driveway and obtained a confession from him about what he did. And I remember walking away from that thinking, I just solved like a 40-year mystery here. Never thought I'd be in that position. Unique about this case, we had such a large number of forgeries that we identified that I actually have pictures of, some that I have pictures of that have been identified as forgeries. I may never know where they are. I'm only going to be an FBI agent so long. I'm only going to be on this earth so long. They're going to pop up eventually. Hopefully, I kept a good enough record where some investigator later on will inherit my work and they'll pop up and they'll have some information there. So that was very unique. I think it was over 200 or so that we actually identified and we have records of. We used 5 different labs to include the U.S. Secret Service. Our lab in Quantico contracted the U.S. Secret Service lab about some paper material associated with some of those false letters of provenance that we had. McRone, Orion Analytical in Massachusetts, the FBI laboratory for the handwriting and the materials analysis on the documents, Secret Service, and then also the lab here. I'll call it the lab here in Natchitoches, the National Center for Preservation, Technology, and Training. Another unique aspect to this case is that we had a lot, and the government incurred a lot of expense on this. We had an extremely large number of paintings that were analyzed by 2 different private labs. I'm not aware of any state, local, federal case where that many paintings were analyzed and forensic analysis performed on that many paintings. So in closing, I thank the National Center for Preservation Technology and Training for hosting this conference, having poor little old me as a speaker, the work that they helped, that they did for us, and the openness to partner up with the FBI. The FBI always values its relationships it has with other government agencies and in the private sector too. So it was very nice to have that, and right here at home to protect Louisiana's history. Also to Mr. Whitehead, Mr. Jack Britton, and the Britton family for letting us use their original paintings, which made me nervous to keep for such a long time. The victims in the case that cooperated with the investigation and did the right thing. And then the prosecution staff, Mr. Van Hook and Miss Cytherea Jernigan for being so aggressive and taking on this very complex, very crazy case. And we had a pretty successful ending to it, I believe. And the support staff with the FBI and also at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Shreveport. I kind of wish I would have another case like this, but I kind of wish I wouldn't have another case like this. So thank you for having me today.